I want to start this video off by saying this is a very different type of video because I am talking about each house as places, even though some houses aren't usually associated with places. But I do think this can be very important, especially for transits, okay? Very important for you to understand like how transits may not always match the same exact blueprint as our birth charts. But if we understand more about astrology, things will start to make a little bit more sense. Video is about the houses as places. This could be very, very helpful for anyone who is into horary astrology, where you can sometimes ask questions like, where did I leave my purse? Okay, so horary astrology is when you cast a chart for a moment in time, like you ask a question and the placements, you analyze and interpret the planets, and it can give you an answer. Okay, also people who are into astrology that look event astrology, you know, looking at events that have happened, looking at crimes, looking at political situations, or looking at you know, charts that require an answer. This also can help, this video can also help you identify where do you spend most of your time. If you have a lot of energy in a certain house, you have a stellium in that house, this might show up. Now, are there certain houses more astrologically focused on places directly? Of course. Okay, and of course I have all those videos of the houses, but this is just something I want to do a little bit different to help us see astrology in a new way for some of you. So if we're looking at the first house, that's a little bit harder because the first house can represent your physical self. So the first house is almost like wherever you are. It's the body. Okay, but we also want to look at this as it could be a place that represents the physical self. Maybe it's the gym. It's a place where you're getting yourself, where you're using a lot of energy. The first house members ruled by Mars. This can be places such as sports, arenas. The first house can represent places where you have to use energy, show up, where you have to really express physical manifestation of a, you know, of a place, like make a statement about where you are. The first house can also be anything that is yours. Okay, first house is yours. So your house, your, you know, your bedroom, anything that is yours can be the first house. And that's why when we look at the first house, we talk a lot about identity. Okay, so as places, the first house is a little bit distinct because it's not going to necessarily represent a place as much as going to represent your energy that you emit within a certain place. So if someone has Mars in the first house, there is usually a dominant energy. Thinking about Mars is about competition. It can be places where a person has to physically assert themselves. That's why I brought up sports. Whereas if you have Mercury in the first house, it's going to be places that where you have to somehow express or showcase what you know. Okay, so that could be like the first house energy there. The second, right, the first house can also be where you typically are, because the first house is self. Okay, now also anywhere that is very like an entryway, right, a door. Think about it, the first house, think of it symbolically. What's on the first house cusp? Your ascendant. That is how you respond to life. That is the energy that really associates with your core essence and how you are going to experience the world. And we also know that because Mars, the ruler of the first house, is about reaction. It's right. This is about reaction. So when we look at the first house, your ascendant is the gateway to the world, right? You know, when you're born, you have this ascendant sign, and it really does dictate a lot in terms of just the order of your chart, but also it dictates a lot in terms of the way, what you're going to experience a lot of in order to really understand yourself and those around you. Second house, places, banks, wherever money is stored, wherever something is stored can be the second house. Places can be property. Okay, now second house would maybe be property or places that you have access to, but it wouldn't necessarily be something that doesn't have to be yours. Now I know that sounds like weird because like, but the second house is money and possessions. But again, you can see a lot of people who are into real estate, a lot of people who have those careers with the second house energy, but also property that is yours, that you acquire as second house. Fourth house can sometimes be property that's in the family name or something like that. But both the fourth and the second house, I tend to look at when I'm thinking of property, what someone owns. When we talk about inheritance of property, I look more to the eighth house. Also the bedroom, because that's where your possessions are. So second house could be where your possessions are, where they're located, where your personal artifacts are stored. The third house, school, early schooling, early life. We know that it's third house, your neighborhood, your immediate surroundings. Look at your third house. as a neighborhood as well, because it's going to help you even see within your third house. You can even see what type of neighbors you tend to have. It's really interesting once you go beyond the basics of houses and signs to know how to interpret. Also, museums, any place where you have to learn something, right? Because remember, third house is gathering information. It is opening your mind up to receive new insights about things. Also, places could be your car. So, third house is also short-term travel. Your fourth house, the fourth house is places, your house, your home, okay, wherever you live. Doesn't have to be the family home, okay. Your fourth house is where you personally live, where you feel comfortable. I just mentioned property when I talked about the second house. It could be your hometown. So sometimes the fourth house isn't about, lovey-dovey family feelings. For some people, the fourth house is you established yourself in your hometown, or people know you, right? You've done something important for people who are from your, where you're from, okay? Also can be your kitchen, okay? And we think of the fourth house as that, the comfort level. If you think of the fourth house as home, also access to things that give us a sense of, safety. It could be food, situations like that. Fifth house, any a party, a festival. The fifth house is going to be something that is entertaining, something that is fun. It can be a concert, the fifth house. And so you also can look at the houses as places to understand your transits in your chart. Okay, the sixth house, that's everyday life. Think of things you do every day. Stores, okay? You're gonna look at this as workplace, okay? There's going to be restaurants. I'm not saying you go to a restaurant every day, but it's going to be places that are common. That is sixth house energy, okay? And so the way you can even use something like this is if you notice that all of a sudden you start getting energy in your sixth house, right? And you're noticing that you have to go out more to do more errands. Like, what is going on? You might have a transit passing that sixth house. Seventh house can be a law office. Any place where you do business. It could be an open space. Think of the seventh house, also coincidentally the house of open enemies, but the seventh house is open. It's Venus energy, right? And so it's seen. And you also can look at the seventh house as maybe even weddings, because marriage is associated with the seventh house as a contract. Eighth house, we talk more about the intimacy, assets, all that stuff when it comes to marriage. Eighth house can be secret places that are tucked away, a basement, an attic, tunnels. Some bathroom can also be associated with the eighth house. If we're talking to places outside of the home, funeral homes, like the eighth house, we already know, right? You've watched the eighth house video. If you haven't, watch my eighth house video. Talk more about what it represents. Now, it doesn't mean it relates to your birth chart. So you might say, right, funeral homes may have nothing to do with it, but if we're talking about the eighth house, we know that all of those things that are serious in nature. So it is what it is. Ninth house, going somewhere, like travel, foreign countries, lectures, college, public speaking engagements in front of a big, massive crowd. That's ninth house energy. You're going away from your comfort zone, your familiarity of the third house, and you're going to the ninth house, the opposite house. The 10th house can mean an office, a formal office, government buildings, official business, okay? A place of business that is official, a place that has some important stuff goes down with the 10th house. So that's also something, award ceremonies, places where there are honors, a place that has monuments for people that have achieved a lot. That is 10th house energy. 11th house, meetings, clubs, organizations, places that require people to congregate together. Now, when you talk about church or something like that, church may be more ninth house energy, because remember, ninth house, Jupiter, it's about beliefs. Okay, so if you're thinking of like a church gathering, that could be more ninth. You could say 11th because it's community as well. So that is something to just keep in mind. Some type of religious gathering could be 11th or ninth, but more so I would say ninth. The 11th is more of organized things based off shared ideals, rallies, protests, okay? Things that bring people together that have similar thoughts, ideas. Religion and belief systems would be more ninth house in nature. 12th house, hospitals, institutions, okay? Spiritual events, We know the 12th house is not a place, can't touch it. You know, we talk about the spiritual gateway. Okay, so it is a place that we can't see. It can definitely, now the hospital we can see, but it can definitely be a place that is not within our reach, especially if we're looking at things spiritually. So that was it for this short video. I don't want to go too in depth with this, but I just want us to understand that each house can be associated with a place or location, and just hoping that that helps someone on their astrological journey.